And then a pitch, and then a technology pitch at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in Helsinki.
Greetings in the love and in the light of the One Infinite Creator. Welcome to part 2 of our peak oil discussion in April with Simon Michaux. All right. Simon, did you want to continue with that answer? Or okay?
Sure. So I got a question from Philip, and he's actually the only one after about 80 or 90 of these podcasts discussions who's actually asked such a question. So it's actually reasonably unusual. And the question was, how do we actually, the culture at the moment we've been raised to revere the individual characteristics of the individual. It's like the hero construct. I think that will return because we actually don't have an idea of how we're going to meet most of these challenges, but someone's going to come up with some ideas in the face of adversity, or a whole series of ideas, and that person's then going to go out there and do it, and they'll achieve stuff. There'll be many failures, right? But some people will be successful at some things, and they will become the new heroes. But it will be defined, what we call that is we defined by the challenges that we now face, and how that will actually happen. That individual will show something as possible, then a group of people will band around them to actually implement that solution. And so what I'm saying here is the construct of the hero will morph into something we haven't seen before in a form of teamwork. That's how I'd finish that one. It's an opinion. Right. No one knows what's really going to happen.
So I'm opening the floor. If someone wants to ask another question, you can either raise your hand or unmute and ask it.
Let's stuff with more chickens.
Yeah. So I did want to ask you. So what do you think about the idea of like giving everyone enough land to grow their own food and firewood? If the political hurdles and all that was possible, like would that give us a feasible transition?
I think culturally at the moment we are still dependent on the existing system, and we are terrified. We are terrified of leaving our glass and concrete buildings. And I think what might have to happen first, let's say the political hurdles are overcome, is a small number of people go out there and show how it's possible, and then they become our teachers. And then we start implementing that over time. And because of the numbers of people on the planet now, we're going to have to take technology with us in some form, because we cannot go back to a medieval style feudalism because we just don't have the arable land to do
it.
We've got an era of history that is unprecedented in form, and I don't think it is truly understood how that will go.
Yeah, my understanding that we wouldn't be able to do it the old style tilling. We'd have to go with trees, because there's a lot of places that are like pasture now that could grow trees, but they just have cows, but they can't grow grains. And to that effect, I know that with trees, one of the easiest things to get is oil from nut trees. So I was thinking you could make biodiesel with that. And Peter Sternlight asks, there will be global attempts to replace liquid fossil fuels with low or no carbon alternatives. What forms of these do we see gaining traction, and why will they receive adoption or not?
Well, biofuels are a great idea, but the planet cannot produce enough biomass to actually make the volumes of biofuel involved, like not even close. What might happen is biofuel could be the only way to keep the aviation industry going, but that industry will be much smaller than it is now. I think what we call the hydrogen economy is a stepping stone to something else. There's way too many practical bottlenecks from an engineering point of view for us to go forward. We might have a situation that we are making ammonia, and that ammonia could be made a number of ways. Like, for example, the heat that comes out of a nuclear power plant could be used to make ammonia. There's a whole series of technologies out there. Like I'm starting to look at thorium molten salt reactors, and I'm trying to understand what exactly the problem with them actually is. But so far, I'm detecting a lot of bullshit. But if that is correct, then we could use the heat from that to make ammonia in lots of places. Things like geothermal in areas like Iceland could be used to. Iceland could make ammonia with geothermal, and that ammonia could be shipped out to every shipping port in the world, and that shipping port will become the hub, which will later become the hydrogen economy in that area. So it's the hydrogen economy, but in a way that's not structured at the moment. It's a stepping stone to something else. I don't see any clear solutions, right? We need an evolution in one sector around us, because all of them have technical bottlenecks in some form. Something has to evolve.
Mm-hmm. And in regards to that thorium, based on my research a few years ago, anyways, there was no existing working model of the thorium. We had a historical one that worked back in the 60s, but there's been lots of projects to try to make them, but we haven't had any success. I think China was supposed to have one that go online in 2018, but I didn't hear anything else about it. So I don't know if you know about any working examples.
So the problem with thorium, in a conventional sense, the thorium solid fuel, is you've got to take the thorium and you've got to irradiate it with a neutron source so it actually goes to uranium-233. But you get to a certain point and you've got to take the fuel out of the reactor while it's radioactive and clean it. Otherwise, it's not useful anymore. And that's the problem. You've got to clean the fuel while it's radioactive as hell, then put it back in. And they said, well, we just use uranium instead, and we'll just store the stuff. We're okay with that. But that's not the case with thorium molten salt. Now, no one likes molten salt reactors, right? But I'm trying to actually determine why. I've come to the conclusion that the molten salt reactors that actually worked just fine in the 60s, it was like 6,000 hours of stable power operation. They shut down thorium because a civilian uranium nuclear power suite would camouflage the manufacture of nuclear weapons, right? And so I don't know. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of that, because everything I've seen so far, I don't understand why this wouldn't work, right? And all the pushback has been the pushback of thorium solid fuel. Now, if these guys were my students, I'd accuse them of bullshit and I'd fire them. It has the appearance of the military stepped in and say, no, we want this to go a different way for our reasons. I don't know. But even if that was true, then they've got to go out and develop it. And once they develop it, then they've got to make it. And then they've got to then teach other people how to use it. We're talking a long time here. So even if someone was able to make this stuff happen, it's not going to come in time to be useful. There are other things that we could do, like, can we turn our waste products into something useful? There's a lot of rubber tires sitting around, and every tire has 7 liters of oil in it. If we were to put that into a pyrolysis plant, that breaks down into a number of products. One of them is fuel oil, which you put through some fractionation steps, you can actually have a form of diesel. If that can be made to be work, we've got to clean up these messes. There are lots of industrial messes all around us, like the waste dumps that are around our large cities are huge, and they're full of stuff that we consider useful elements, but they're not in a form that we can extract with existing technology very easily. So it's going to be a big old mess, is the answer.
Yeah, I was reading the John Michael Greer, and he was saying that we're going to be taking advantage of all of those dumps during the salvage economy, which will come after the scarcity.
Yeah, but even the salvage economy, you might have like a pile of rubbish. But what do you do with it? Like our existing recycling technology, it's really goddamn hard. And the problem is getting enough of the right residue up to the right process plant in enough volumes in a consistent manner. That's where it all falls over. We might have all this stuff in this big rubbish pile, but how do we access it? I think we're going to give it a go because it'll be the best source of materials, but it just won't be very efficient.
Mm-hmm. All right. So did anyone else have any questions for Simon today?
So, guys, thank you for accommodating me to have this talk at this time. Because it's obvious, I think it's late at night for you or something, isn't it? Like 3 a.m. or something. Oh,
no, it's 10.
Well, I think, yeah, the people that actually showed up, it wasn't late for them. There was someone that was going to show up from New Zealand where it would have been 1 a.m. and someone that wanted to show up from Hawaii where it would have been 4 a.m. But yeah.
That's Peter Sterling. So Peter's actually up at 4 a.m. to do this.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. There it is.
Thanks,
yeah, Peter was up at 4 a.m. There you go.
That's not a beer I owe him.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. Did you want to say something, Peter? Do you have any more questions?
No, this has been great. I'm glad I've been able to do this, and I'm going to keep what I have to say short because my wife is still sleeping.
Peter and I are actually working on something together, and I should be working on that instead of doing podcasts. So it's coming, Peter. Sorry.
All right. So I guess we'll close it for today. So thank you all for attending, and may we keep that vision of a sustainable transition of smooth and kindness and love for one another as we go forward. And so we'll leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite creator. Simon, was there any websites or anything you wanted to plug?
I've only got I put a website, all my work on that website. It's something I did myself. It's not brilliant, but it's all my works will go there. This podcast will go there. simonmichaux.com.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you, everyone. And I'll end the stream. And it's